Hi there, my name's Alex and I run the Autism Acceptance page on Facebook. Obviously if you're seeing this on Facebook you will know that. If you're seeing it on YouTube, I will drop a link in the comment section to my Facebook page where you can go along and check it out. I cover a wide range of topics from a neurodiversity standpoint, but a non-woke one. So if that's something you'll be interested in, then check out my page in the link in this YouTube video. Oh, excuse me. So, I want to talk today about autistic processing and break down the systems that many autistic people often struggle to navigate. So, there is processing and there is accessing and there is monitoring. Many autistic people have various different types of problems with these three things: processing, accessing and monitoring. And they can have problems of connection, problems of tolerance and problems of control. So obviously also autism is a spectrum. Some would say it's too broad. I think it's too broad. And there's also this co-occurring conditions along the side. So it's hard to actually pin autism down to one specific thing. But I want to talk about my experience. I was diagnosed with PDA when I was a child, or given the label PDA when I was a young child. So I want to talk about how things in those brackets of accessing, processing and monitoring and problems of connection, problems of tolerance and problems of control have affected me throughout my life. Obviously it was worse when I was younger. Things are getting better, but things are better now. I've learnt to navigate through stuff. So, processing for me, processing and discriminating in environments that are high sensory stimulating can be difficult. And I struggle to do that when everything's going at a fast pace. The more going on, the more I have to concentrate and the more it kind of slows me down. I can do it, but it slows me down. And it also makes me anxious when that happens, and that is a physical sensation. Your emotions are physical sensations that give you feedback, but they're biochemical sensations that give you biochemical feedback, but they also give you biochemicals talk back, or they can do, and it's kind of like a drug-like effect. The physical sensations of your emotional states can kind of have like a drug-like effect that can cloud cognition, or affect cognition in certain ways. And I've found that in the past. So it can sometimes feel to me like I'm fading out and others around me are kind of at the forefront. I'm kind of, there's me in the kind of like shadows, and everything else is loud and bright and in your face and being processed, but it's being processed more than I'm processing myself. I'm processing myself, but it makes things slower. So I have a big sensitivity to my biochemical sensations, As far as I'm aware, I can always distinguish between biochemical talkback and biochemical feedback. That is what I call biochemical talkback and biochemical feedback. They are words that I've or phrases I've coined. Obviously, they are what they say they are. Biochemical feedback is the feedback you get from the sensations that come into your body, and biochemical talkback is a drug-like effect you get from the sensations, but not the interpretation. Um, you can get one. You got. You can get one without the other, but I think there's always at least a dulled down talkback. So maybe not completely get one without the other. But most people can filter those sensations out in favour of cognition. Most people can filter the sensory out in favour of interpretation. I can generally do that, but the sensory is highly distracting, and it's definitely fighting for dominance with the interpretation, and more so when I was younger. Okay, so yeah, often getting both at the same time, and that can create what I call the DJ's mixing board effect. So I describe it this way because if you imagine it, you're listening to a song, and then the DJ mixes it up. So you're listening to a rock song, and the DJ slows it down and puts a high pitched tone to it, or messes with it. You recognise it as that song, as that tune, but it has a different feel. It has a different vibe, and that can happen throughout all situations for me. So I recognise the song or the situation, but it can have a different feel, and I can experience it different, but I can work through the frame that everyone else is working through. And sometimes it is a struggle, trying to not um, trying to hide the fact that I'm distracted by all that and other people aren't. Um, but I've managed it for the most part. Um, but yeah, it literally feels like getting drunk off your biochemical sensations. So if I'm given the frame though, or the outline, then I'm better at accessing, processing, and monitoring things. So going into a new situation, if I'm in that state, I find it easier to be told. People talk about social stories. It's not just social stories. It's the story of the narration. It's helpful if somebody could narrate the situation. I don't need it so much now, but narrate this practical social situation, so I can follow because I'm better, or I can follow easier because of being distracted by the biochemical sensations of my emotions. So it's accessing, processing, and monitoring. Um, Getting those, this heavy biochemical sensations can make it harder to monitor. So things like memory, short-term memory, remembering what someone has said. If unless what I've been able to do or I've learnt to do is to link it with a sensation I'm feeling and try to find a link, a comparison between two things where perhaps I'm getting a similar biochemical it's giving me a similar biochemical sensation, or it holds substance. I can't I struggle to remember things if they don't hold substance. So when I was a kid, maths problems, and still now, maths problems were a real nightmare. I never learnt to reel off my times tables, but if I if I remembered something, if I got substance in my brain, it would freeze frame, and I'd always remember it. So I could, as long as it had substance, if I had something to remember it with, a substance to remember it with, a glue, it's like a cohesive glue. Um, if I could glue the links together, then I will always remember it. If I didn't have that glue, it doesn't matter how much parroting um, you do, it wouldn't sink in. So, an example, when I was a kid, I went to Tenerife with my dad, and we were learning Spanish. We got this Spanish phrase book, um, and I obviously, my dad and myself, wanted to be able to, ask basic questions in the native language. So I was learning, phrases and words and stuff. And this book was quite good because a lot of Spanish words are spelt the way they sound. That people say it's harder for people to learn English because of all the silent letters and things that aren't spelt the way they sound. But Spanish words are generally spelt the way they sound. Um, so it would give, for example, a cat is gatto, chocolate gatto. Oh, sorry, a cat is gatto. So the phrase book would say, imagine a cat jumping on the worktop and eating your chocolate gatto off the plate on the worktop. So I get that picture in my head, I'd be able to link it all together, and then the cohesive glue would come along, and I'd be able to hold substance to it and then remember it. Perro was dog, so nothing from the phrase bit there, but I had a dog called Perry when I was growing up. So I thought I remembered Perry and dog, so that one was easy. So it's a link to a substantial link to what you need to remember to stop it sieving out. I find it hard to switch tasks or environments, and I deal with it through comparison. So when I was a kid, say we had not my usual teacher, say we had a supply teacher, or I moved from one area to another area. That's a good example. When I was a kid, and I changed schools, and I was very homesick. I hated change like that. I hated saying goodbye to people and places and stuff. And I kept trying to find ways, even the most tiniest little intricate grains of how my new teacher, was like my old teacher. They were the same height, same hair colour. They said a certain phrase similar. They said a certain word in a similar way. Um, it, it could be something really tiny, but I had to find that link. And I looked that hard, I looked that deep for that link because I needed it. And it could be really abstract. I was quite creative. PDA I think can be quite creative. Got creative ways of avoiding demands. But yeah, so it kind of like old to new transitioning kind of helped me to process, access, and monitor things. We all do that to a certain extent. When you're a kid, a really small child, and your parents take you to nursery or kindergarten or whatever it is in America, they go with you and they tell the teacher a little bit about you, and the teacher hears how they talk to you, and the teacher might talk to you about the same things or in the same way. So then the teacher becomes the new like mummy. This is how the teacher is like mummy, and then mummy fades out and the teacher, and then another teacher comes along. So we've got Miss Jones. So the kids are used to Miss Jones, and then Mrs. Smith comes along. So it's like, how is Mrs. Smith like Mrs. Jones? Because of that familiar thing. That's easier to process. It's easier, more familiar. It puts you in cruise control. It keeps your nervous system as calm as possible, and stops those kind of biochemical storms from happening and the confusion. So yeah, that worked for me. Um, so for me, problems of connection, problems of tolerance, and problems of control came directly from not being able to process, access, and monitor things. So we all have a flight or fight or freeze response um, when struggling with these things. So processing, accessing, and monitoring issues will inevitably lead to difficulty with making connections, um, tolerating the environment, and controlling your responses. So, I mean, I was prone to panic, so I could end up having panic attacks and being really dramatic if it was something different that happened that I wasn't comfortable with. I was struggling to access, process, and monitor. Then my nervous system would be shot, and I would get upset. I would get myself in a state, um, and yeah, it wouldn't be very nice. As a little kid, I used to cry. As I got older, I turned into a bit of an ice queen. I struggled to show emotions, partly because of sensory issues. When you cry, people come and hug you, and I didn't want that. There were certain people that I could take affection from, certain people I couldn't, and it didn't matter how close I was to them. It wasn't about how much I loved them. It was a sensory thing, and it was like bombardment. Um, so, like with my mum, I was very close to my mum, but I found her quite overpowering. I could sit on her lap and I could snuggle into her when I was upset, but it was like she was an it. She was my comfort blanket. I know that sounds awful. I love her to bits, but in that situation, she was my familiar. She was, she was my comfort blanket. There was no like kind of energy, emotion meets emotion for me. It was just my comfort, my familiar, my go-to, my safe space, safe place, um, which I'd imagine was quite hard for her because, she wanted affection, but she was a very affectionate person, but she didn't push for that too hard. I mean, she did kind of want, she'd come up and hug me, but if I was like wriggling and fighting her off, she wouldn't, she wouldn't over, violate that. Um, Another issue I had was with balance and coordination. My hand-eye coordination has never been great. I was always the last to be picked for sports teams, so that's a processing, accessing, and monitoring issue, because you're processing where things are in space coming at you, monitoring them, and accessing, your putting your hand out to catch something, and are you putting it out in the right place? Are you doing it at the right time? Are you looking at the right, bearing the right weight? All of it, all those things that happen naturally, kind of didn't really seem to happen so much for me. In sports, the ball would come at me and I'd be like, oh, like, scared the ball was going to hit me in the face. So instead of trying to grab for it, I'd be more bothered about backing away from it. Yeah, so I've never been like good at sort of sports and catching the ball and everything. I was always last to be picked for teams and stuff. And I always felt like I was the one letting the team down. I was their handicap, which didn't give me a lot of confidence. I struggled quite a lot of my life with self-confidence because of various things. Bullying in the past, obviously that takes it out of you and makes you see yourself in a bad light. I got over that. But yeah, there's still remnants of those struggles in the past. But yeah, I'm dealing with it and I'm stronger. You are stronger than your struggles as you go through things. You can't let them beat you. You can't let the bullies win. You can't let your struggles defeat you. You've got to live in your own skin. You've got to live in your own head, in your own nervous system. Those biochemical sensations are not going to go away. They're going to affect you. So being able to have an outlook on things, or try and have an outlook on things, a mental outlook that helps to keep your nervous system from being shot, from being in pain, can help. And there are things you can do with self-confidence and stuff, and breathing. One of the things I used, I don't know if that was so healthy or not, I talked about the physical sensation of my emotional states, the biochemical talkback. I used to do what I now call biochemical sedation. So I would tune in to the physical sensation of those emotional states, to the point of feeling like I was, getting drunk off those sensations. And as a kid, I'd kind of tense up and curl up, arms folded, legs crossed, and curl into myself to keep the world out and also get that sensation. And that, I think that was quite hard for people around me to see. But I needed that sensation. I needed that biochemical sedation. I probably didn't need to do it that severely. I'd like really tense up and curl into myself, and I just had to let it pass. There are certain things that a rhythm, tuning into a rhythm, a sound rhythm, or being tapped, depending on who was doing the tapping or me doing it, but indirectly, inobtrusively, to get that rhythm to kind of get out of that headspace and calm myself down. Certain refreshing smells like lemon or citrus or whatever, that were kind of vitalizing. I could, if I smelt them, I could kind of revitalize myself. And I think sensations, certain sensations I can compare to like certain tastes and smells, like anger or excitement is like sherbet. It's like a sharp, tart, sugary sensation. So if I was to smell a lemon or smell an orange, then it may take the modality. It's sharing that. It's sharing that sensory experience, that biochemical experience, with a smell. So it's not just the rush of biochemical sensations. I'm also sharing it with a sense of smell. So then I can filter it better and kind of calm myself out of it. Nobody could get you out of it. You had to get yourself out of it. And by that kind of biochemical sensation, it's been my friend and my foe for years. And obviously I learnt to kind of internalize it more than, it kind of looked quite severe, tensing up and curling up and wrapping myself around myself. And then I kind of stopped needing to do that and was able to just channel the sensation and then calm myself down. But yeah, that's the kind of one kind of coping mechanism that I used. And I can use that sensation for, that's what I call trauma-initiated biochemical sedation. So if you're dealing with certain situations that are stressful, tuning into your biochemical sensations, and as a drug, like I say, trauma initiated because of what's happened, or the self-initiated. So I could sometimes do it to dare exposure. So if I wanted to hug someone, because I'm quite an affectionate person, but my senses say no. So sometimes I would tune into, I would cuddle someone, and I'd tune into the bite instead of like dissociating from it. I tune into the physical sensation of my emotional state and use it as like a buffer. Imagine like it was like having a drink, a shot of whiskey, to be able to handle something, but there was no, I was using the biochemical sensations in my body. I wasn't putting anything into my body that wasn't already there. I was just channeling what was there, to be able to regulate myself, calm my nervous system, and deal with things I wanted to deal with through that biochemical filter. In some ways I think that's, to do that too much, especially recreationally, it can leave you kind of not, you want to be functioning, you want to be living, you don't want to spend your time in a kind of zombie sedative state. But yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, 2 seconds. But yeah, that was me growing up, and you just learn to navigate life. You have experiences, you mature, and as a kid I couldn't explain like this. I'm articulating, hopefully I'm articulating well enough for you to get the idea, but as a child you can't articulate in that detail about what you're doing, what's happening. But yeah, I hope this helps people, and I hope, if you can resonate with my experience, and find a frame for what you may do, or similar stuff, then yeah, I hope this has helped. Anyway, love and peace to you all, and just remember, you're stronger than your struggles. Bye for now.